Today's cooking lesson is a sheet pan jambalaya.
Okay, so for our sheet pan jambalaya, we're gonna take this length of smoked sausage here, and we're just gonna slice it a little bit diagonal in thin slices, like so. Now I keep a plethora of prep bowls around like these because I love to do all my prep up front, and then I'm not running around the kitchen like a crazy person. So I've got this bowl I'm gonna put our sausage in until we're ready to start cooking. Now, I love shortcuts on weeknights, so I also bought shrimp that's already peeled, deveined, all that good stuff. So use the shortcuts that you can to save yourself time. Thank you, babe. All right, now I like smaller bites. You can leave them this size. I'm gonna cut them in half just because I prefer them that size. That is totally personal preference. But you can stack them and easily cut those into half moons. So we'll keep going. So prep time for this meal should be about 12 minutes for a total time of 30. So a great weeknight meal to throw together. And I love the flavors of jambalaya, but if you were to make jambalaya from scratch, more of that soupy, saucy kind of stew texture, those flavors take a long time to build and they're delicious. Not meant for weeknight cooking. Now, if you haven't had andouille sausage, it's a really tasty sausage. It has a little bit of a kick to it. It's a Cajun sausage with lots of good spice. Not too spicy, I'm a spice wimp, but just enough to really give it a lot of flavor. All right, I'm gonna set that aside for now. And then we're gonna cut our bell peppers into strips. Now, note to self, I don't know if you know this about green and red and yellow bell peppers. They're all the same plant. They're really all the same pepper. But they start out green, and the more they ripen, the more they turn to yellow and then to red. So you start out with something not as sweet, not a spicy pepper, but a green bell, and you end up with a sweet red pepper. We're gonna use one red and one yellow today. Now I'm just gonna cut the top off, and then I'm just gonna pull out the inside here. You don't need, there are great tools to make this faster, but if you don't have fancy tools, you don't need them. You can just rip that middle right out. Now we want to cut these all roughly the same size and shape so that they cook evenly. So I'm cutting slices about this size. And we're gonna put those in another prep bowl here to keep ourselves organized and keep everything ready to throw in. It'll be ready to throw in when we're ready for it. All right. What I should probably do though is preheat the oven. And we're gonna preheat the oven to 425. All right, so I'm just gonna cut down what we call the cheeks of the pepper, 4 sides, so that they'll lay flat for easier slicing. And then I'm just gonna take my knife and cut a few slices right down the side. Easy peasy. And remember, keep your fingertips tucked under. You don't wanna cut your fingers. All right, 1, 2, 3. I'd say about 5 slices per side. Usually works out pretty well for a nice sized chunk that keeps its texture, but doesn't get too soft in the cooking process. We've already cut our meat. I don't need this one. All right, that's our red bell pepper. And now we're gonna cut our yellow. All right, I love to cook with all the different colors. It makes sure that I'm eating a variety of vitamins and minerals by cooking with different colors, but it also makes for really pretty food. Hey, Tangel. Makes for really pretty food, and to me, it also adds a lot more complex ingredients. Now, none of these are particularly expensive ingredients. This isn't an expensive meal to make. And if you are vegetarian, you could leave out the meat or use some sort of substitute, like maybe a tofu or, maybe some kind of mushroom. I know some of my vegetarian friends use mushrooms and shred them up almost like carnitas, so you could do something like that. Or just leave the meat out altogether and enjoy all the veggie and rice goodness. All right, we've got our bell peppers ready to go. And now we're gonna cut up our onion. I'm just gonna cut this end off here. And then cut this in half. Now we're not gonna chop the onion today. We're just going to create some slices. We want them roughly the same size and shape as our bell pepper. So when you read a recipe and it says vertically sliced, we are going to take that half of an onion like this, and we're just going to create slices like so. And these will be roughly the same size and shape as our bell peppers. Now notice I didn't cut this hairy end off of the onion until I made those slices. That holds everything together and makes it easier. Now that that's done, I can cut off that end and I've got all of my onion slices. All right, let's put our onion over here. And we're gonna do that with the other half of the onion. The other thing cutting your onion that way does is it helps you peel that outer layer off so much easier than trying to peel a whole onion, because you don't have to get your fingernails underneath it. All right, so we're gonna slice this one, keeping that root end together. Right there. And then we'll cut that end off. All right, we're almost ready to start cooking. We've got, I'm pretty sure, other than some green onions, all of our prep work is done. Easy peasy, you guys. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drizzle a little bit of oil on this sheet pan here. Now, I'll put these onions in here. Let's see if I can get this a little more visible for you. Now that we're done with that for a little bit. All right, I just have a giant sheet pan here. And I love these for one pot meals. I can throw all these prep bowls. I can throw this one pan in the dishwasher and everything is easy cleanup. All right, so I put some garlic oil on my sheet pan and I'm just gonna tilt that around. And now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna throw on our bell peppers, and we're just gonna toss them around. And then we are gonna toss on our onions. And I'm gonna do this by hand and just break them apart a little bit. Sometimes they like to stick together and I want those not tiny pieces, but I don't want a quarter of an onion in a bite. All right, here we go. I think that's probably more than enough onion for me. All right, there we go. And I'm just gonna zhuzh that around in the oil a little bit. We don't want anything to stick. All right, now I'm just gonna put our sausage on. And we're just gonna mix that around a little bit. And what we're gonna do is go ahead and sprinkle that with a teaspoon of Cajun seasoning. Wash my hands real quick. Now this does cook in stages, where a lot of sheet pan meals you put in the oven and cook them everything all at once. This does take a couple of stages because you don't want to put the shrimp in and have it overcook and cook as long as everything else. So we're going to take about a teaspoon of this Creole seasoning. And Tony's is my favorite. We use this Cajun seasoning for just about everything. Is there even another brand of Cajun seasoning out there as famous as Tony's? I don't think so. Okay. You'll notice in a lot of my cooking, I love spice blends more than I love buying individual spices. It just takes some of the guesswork out and it makes things faster. All right, let's mix that up and we're gonna throw it in the oven. Got a little Cajun seasoning down my throat. All right, we're just going to move that stuff around a little bit with that seasoning, and I'm gonna throw this in the oven and we'll talk through the rest of the steps while I do some green onion and make sure our shrimp is thawed. I'm gonna go ahead and slice some green onions while we're waiting for that. Green onions are really wimpy green onions that I got at the store this week. I'm not a big fan, but they're what I have, so. All right. Got a couple of big chunks there. All right, we'll get that in our prep bowl. Now, when the sausage and those peppers come out of the onion, when the sausage and peppers come out of the oven, we're going to toss in some shrimp, some Creole seasoning, and some paprika. And then we're also going to stir in some grape tomatoes. Ooh, flatbread pizzas sound good. All right, that is all the chopping and slicing I need to do today. Whew. You know, for green onions, I have to say those were pretty strong. My eyes won't quit watering. Whew. All right, let's see. We are going to go ahead and take our shrimp and we're gonna toss this with a tablespoon of oil and a half teaspoon of Creole seasoning. I'm just gonna eyeball the oil because that's kind of how I roll, but it would be 1 tablespoon if you are following the recipe exactly. All right, then we're gonna do a half teaspoon of Creole seasoning. And then we're gonna do a little bit of paprika. All right, how much paprika? Another half teaspoon. And we're just gonna toss all of that together. Now you can use olive oil. I used a garlic canola just because I really love the flavor of garlic oil. And we're gonna let that sit together a little bit until it's time to move things around. Now, when that comes out, we're gonna add these 2 pouches of rice. You're not gonna cook them first. We're just gonna open them and stir it in. Now, this just saves time of you not having to pre-cook rice. And we'll pour this right on the sheet pan and cook it for a little bit longer. So while that continues to cook, Alexa, how much time?
You have 40 seconds left on your 8-minute timer.
Looks like that can cook some more, but they're coming along nicely. Go ahead and rinse our tomatoes. Now, these grape tomatoes I've had for a little while, and some of them look like they're about on their last leg. But when they look a little wrinkly like that, don't feel like you have to throw them out. They're just gonna burst open on the sheet pan meal anyway. So this is a great opportunity when they get to this point to saute them, roast them, or add them to a sheet pan meal. Alexa, stop timer. All right, let's go on to the next step. Oh yeah, that looks good. Now my oven cooks a little hot, so I don't mind cooking it a little less time. All right, there is our pan, and now that we've got our shrimp mixed together with the oil, the ½ teaspoon of Creole seasoning, and the paprika, we are gonna stir in our shrimp. Avalanche in the sink. We are gonna throw in our tomatoes. Now the recipe calls for cherry tomatoes. I'm using grape, so based on that, I'm not cutting them at all because they're already tiny. All right, we're gonna just toss all of that together. Look at all those beautiful colors. It's gonna be a gorgeous, healthy, flavorful meal. All right, we are going to bake this for 8 more minutes, and then we're gonna throw in our rice and then cook it for 2. All right, so we've had another 8 minutes here where we've got our shrimp is nice pink and opaque, so that looks done. The sausage is done. The veggies are a really nice texture. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some salt and pepper, some more Creole seasoning, and we're gonna add these 2 bags of the Uncle Ben's rice. And I'm just squeezing the bag to break those clumps up a little bit. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon of the Creole seasoning. And then we're gonna add a ½ teaspoon of salt. And we're gonna add a ½ teaspoon of ground pepper. And we're just gonna toss all that together, and we're gonna cook this for 2 more minutes, and then dinner will be ready, and we'll just top it with some green onions for a little extra flavor and color. Now be careful with these sheet pans, they do get hot. Now we wanna stir this up nice and good because we want all the juices from the vegetables and the meats to really soak in and finish cooking that rice. There we go. All right, 2 more minutes and it'll be ready. Isn't it so pretty? Look at all those beautiful colors. All right, there it is. Isn't it beautiful? Look at all those pretty colors. Stir all that and it's moist. You can see all the flavor. Yum. All right, we're just gonna toss these green onions on the top. And then show you how beautiful it is all plated up. Now this makes hearty servings. So there's plenty of food for 4 to 6 people, depending on how much they eat. And there it is, beautiful.